One. Welcome back to another episode of Tidal Flooding Talk. New episodes every Tuesday night, wherever you get your podcast or on YouTube. We have the whole gang back with us this week. We have Palma Shiles. I'm Joe Martucci. And back from his hero campaign, fighting fires, saving the world, Dan Skeldon.
Thank you for talking
How's
me
it
up a
feel, Dan?
little more than I deserve, but you always do that, Joe. So I appreciate that. But nice to be back with you guys this week.
All right. Well, it's good to have you back. I'm glad you're safe and you're here to chat Tidal Flooding Talk with us. Or this episode, I should say, is our May 19th episode. Holy crap. Memorial Day weekend's like this weekend. It doesn't feel real this year. I don't know if it's because I think it's partially because Memorial Day is early this year, but also like I don't want to say scarred because I liked it, but I'm still under the influence of our cold and snowy winter. And I'm like, we still need like 3 months of warm weather before we get to Memorial Day. But I don't know. How do you feel, Dan, about that?
I'm just hoping we have a nice, just instant start to summer with Memorial Day weekend, So we get a nice summery weekend to kind of erase all the winter cobwebs off and the bad feelings that linger. And then it's just stays summer after that. We don't flip back to, cool and cloudy in June. Just have a nice, longer, extended summer to make up for the kind of harsh winter we had.
All right. And Palma, do you feel like Memorial Day's here? Or are you still like, geez, I can't believe it's go time?
It definitely feels like it's here because work has been extremely busy. In the construction world, everyone is like, it's go time trying to get everything done before Memorial Day. So I've definitely been feeling it, and I think I'm ready for the weather to have been decided. Like it's warm now.
Okay. Okay. All right. That's fair. Dan, for you being in PA, you don't get those cooling sea breezes. So hopefully you'll have a nice ramp up this summer here as we go. All right. So we're going to bring in our guest, Johnny Quispe. He is the director of the cities program at the Nature Conservancy, which is a global nonprofit institution. He is a fellow Rutgers grad like myself. So that makes 2 episodes in a row with Rutgers people. Go us, and go RU. But he's a great guy. Does some really interesting work throughout the state and even beyond, of course, with the Nature Conservancy. So, Johnny, welcome to the show. We appreciate it.
Hey, Joe. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We'll ask you the same question. This episode's going out May 19th. Does it feel like Memorial Day weekend is like right around the corner or no? Because I said no. It doesn't feel like it to me.
Mentally, I'm ready. I think that's where I'm ready for that weekend, ready to, enjoy and really kick the summer off. But I feel like there's a couple things between now and then that I just got to get through and then I can enjoy the time.
Okay. All right. Very good. Well, we'll hope you can have a nice, long, extended Memorial Day weekend here. And congratulations on your promotion to now director. I said you were assistant director or associate director. You said, no, I'm director. So my apologies for that. Okay. So tell us first what got you interested in your line of work. Was this something like when you went to Rutgers for your undergrad, you're like, this is what I want to do. I want to work for the Nature Conservancy. Or was it something you developed over time?
Yeah, that's a great question. Came to the Nature Conservancy after a couple years working in the private sector, in academia before that, doing advocacy down in Washington, D.C., through some fellowships and after finishing my degree at Rutgers. So, no linear path. I'll certainly say one of the things that did support me in my career thus far is that fine Rutgers education we always talk about, Joe. But
yes, that's right.
I had there was a pivotal moment at Rutgers. I had a professor, George Clark, who
was
fundamental in getting me to think about humans and how we interact with our environment, so that human ecology, that human dimensions perspective. And really that set up the stage for how I started thinking about this field broadly about, it's not just nature, people, it's nature and people. And then started, thinking about the policy implications, the economic, the history, bringing all those contexts together. And, that foundation there, I think just changed the trajectory of my career thus far. And, and it's been, venture after venture of learning from others and continuing to engage within our state of New Jersey, which I'm extremely grateful for.
Yeah. I was going to make a quick comment about George Clark. I had one class, I think, what was it? People, relationships, and the environment. That was the intro class. And I remember on final exam, he was like known for like what he bringing like bagels and muffins and stuff for everybody. So it was an interesting class, though. All food
Yeah,
aside.
I started off with human ecology and then people, places, and the environment. And then he was like, "Oh, you should take my other class. Oh, you should get this. Oh, you should get involved in this." And so that's really, he would bring students after or before his class to like just talk and think about, what are the hot topics of that time, what was trending. And it was always a very constructive dialogue and very, sometimes very deep and very just like, wanting to understand the systems behind, our world.
So within your work at the Nature Conservancy, right? Director of the cities program. I think that sounds pretty straightforward. Let me ask you this: in New Jersey, what's considered a city that you would work with?
So let me start by telling you a little bit about the Nature Conservancy. The mission of the Nature Conservancy is to conserve the land and waters on which all life depends on. And we do that in different ways and in different places. We do that in coastal areas. We do that within our river ecosystems. We do that through our lands work, which is working to protect some of the most vulnerable lands for nature. So, with a shifting climate, ensuring that we have appropriate habitat availability, but also so that we can all enjoy it. And so our cities work, our urban conservation work, is bringing the pieces that the Nature Conservancy does best, all the things we've learned in the past, and doing it in an urban context. The state of New Jersey is majority urban. 93% of our state is urban, and so for us, our priority, we're a statewide program, but our focus is scaling deep into two specific cities. That's Newark, our largest city of the state, and Patterson. In these we work to use nature-based solutions to be able to help address some of the heat issues that we're seeing. We're seeing, as you know, hotter summers with just more prolonged periods of heat, not just during the day, but at night. And so we can use nature-based solutions to help reduce some of those heat impacts. And in cities like Patterson, we're focusing on flood reduction and using nature to help reduce the impacts of flooding. We have been seeing more extreme, more frequent storms. And so some of our systems, our infrastructure can't keep up with rainwater. Where we do have combined sewer overflow systems, and that creates a second level, a second challenge in some of our work. And so we're not, while we are focused in those two cities, we're not strictly limited there, and we're happy to help continue to scale and impact our and spread our work. But that's where we're focused right now.
Awesome. We're going to take our first break, and we'll come right back with Johnny on Tidal Flooding Talk.
Welcome back. You are watching Tidal Flooding Talk. We are brought to you by the New Jersey Coastal Coalition, and we would like to remind our viewers to be smart about landscaping. The way you landscape impacts flooding. Use native plants, rain gardens, and permeable pavers to let water absorb naturally. Avoid paving large areas. Simple yard choices help reduce neighborhood flooding and protect water quality. Always check with your local zoning officer for your town's specific landscaping requirements before making any changes.
All right. And we are back here on Tidal Flooding Talk. We're going to continue to talk about the cities program at the Nature Conservancy. Johnny, you said you work mostly with, Newark and Patterson here. Those are areas, as we know, that, are impacted by flooding, not necessarily tidal flooding for all of it, but certainly impacted by flooding. Can you give us a sense of like the time and effort you put into this? Is there a dollar amount? Is there a man hours you could put that says, hey, this is the kind of, investment we have in these places?
Yeah, what I can tell you is we have in Newark about we have we have three full time, in addition to myself, about four full time staff working on this year round, and we are working with other partners who are putting in time. I don't think I can give you a specific amount, but I could tell you that we have about 25 to 30 partners across Newark and Patterson, all with varying degrees of capacity and commitment to the work that are contributing to uh, addressing many of these issues.
Johnny, has it been well received by the politicians, by the emergency management in these cities? And are you hoping to take what you learned here and kind of copy and paste it to other cities throughout the state?
Yeah, I think this has been well received. We do see that there's a need. We see that there is a need for continuing to coordinate across sectors, community, local place-based communities, the for-profit, the nonprofit, and the government. There's need for coordination. There's been a lot of understanding on the complexity of these issues. We know that these issues aren't one, there's not one solution here. There's many interests. So they all require interdisciplinary teams, and being able to bring that to the forefront of how we think, about this work. It's not just the emergency managers or the engineers. It's bringing the workforce leaders, the community organizers, the housing, finance, public health, bringing everyone together to understand, the many dimensions that this work needs, and then having sort of this co-design process, to think through a project, to think through a plan, and then bring that vision to fruition has been something that we want to understand. What are the enabling conditions to create that? And then share those findings, share those learnings with other cities, with other communities, with different government leaders or others who are interested in emulating or taking pieces of this process that we've done and apply it elsewhere. Everything that we do at the Nature Conservancy is with an eye towards making an impact. And so we can do that through sharing our learnings and through bringing others into the process.
Now, earlier you were telling us your mission and you mentioned having nature based solutions. Could you tell us more about that? Like, what are some of the nature based solutions that you've used?
Right. So in certain cities, we can look at trees, so street trees, enhanced tree pits as solutions. We can look at vegetated berms or parks and floodplains as potential nature-based solutions. In a more coastal context, we can use living shorelines as ways to help reduce wave energy and create habitat at the same time. Salt marsh restoration using sediment to help our marshes keep pace with sea level rise, and then creating this buffer between communities and future storms. These are ways that we can use nature in a way that both benefits, people, our systems, our communities, and also help us look towards the future of, what is our coast, what is our state going to look like in a 20 to 30 years from now, and design for it and prepare for it so that both nature and people can thrive in the same system.
Johnny, just a quick follow up too. Are some of these solutions you're talking about, like with the cities specifically, combating heat, combating flooding, do you kind of get a two for one where some of these nature based solutions will help both things you're trying to fight, or are there specific solutions for the heat issue and the flooding issue?
Yeah, I think the more that we can benefit from a single solution, the better. We want to realize as many co-benefits from any given solution. I'll give you an example. In Newark, one of the things that our partners and us are working on are these enhanced tree pits. And these enhanced tree pits, yes, depave, so you're removing impervious surface. It will create spaces for trees, so you're creating cooler corridors by adding trees to the landscape. The enhanced tree pit aspect increases the floods, like the not the flood source, the stormwater storage potential for that piece of that area. So now we're taking stormwater that would otherwise be entering the combined sewer system and retaining it, slowing it down there enough so that the infrastructure can handle it. Right? Imagine a city or imagine a community with a network of these. Thinking about this at scale, thinking about how we redesign our cities to now think proactively about the benefits that nature can bring on both fronts. I think that's critical. I think that's where we can get buy-in, not just from those interested in the solutions, but those who may benefit but not realize on the get-go that, hey, this addresses an issue I have. And I think part of it is how we communicate it and how we bring those to see, hey, this is an economic solution. This is a public health solution. This is a city planning solution, and bringing it to those different parties in a way that helps communicate the goals and the outcomes.
Awesome. We're going to take our final break here. We'll be back on the other side with Tidal Flooding Talk. homeowners insurance rates when it comes to flood insurance. That's something we focus on a lot with Tidal Flooding Talk and the New Jersey Coastal Coalition. And that's something that is a at least a point of emphasis for you as well as you're building these nature-based solutions to combat against flooding.
I think it's certainly something that we have to do a little better work at understanding what those benefits are for communities in that way. We talk about economic benefits, how we can position the solution itself and realize that the gains into everyday individuals is important. Off the top of my head, not a number I could point to you at this
That's all right.
moment, but I'd love to, in the future, we'd love to be able to contribute more to that.
So, how costly are these projects for cities, and how do you kind of show the municipalities like it's worth it in the end?
Cost ranges. You can definitely take advantage of existing areas, and that brings down your cost. You can use areas that don't have quite as much built infrastructure already. There's few places like that now, so that definitely raises the cost once you start thinking about utilities or where buildings are. Now it sort of compounds and increases the permitting process and everything. That is definitely something we need to uh, address in terms of like cost, but part of it is how we talk about the value, right? We know that it can be more expensive to do something in an area where people are given the many variables of being adjacent to critical infrastructure. But understanding that what we're bringing has a bigger impact to people because of its proximity to people is something we don't often account for. And so that's one thing that as we continue this work, we can bring some of those numbers, some of those project ranges into everyday communities and give explanations on how to use the right RFPs or requests for proposals or the right projects for what a community needs.
And I guess kind of a follow-up question is regarding the cost and how challenging is it finding, the real estate for your projects? Obviously cities are built up. I mean, are you buying private land, city land, or is it kind of a mix, or you just take the land where you can get it? Or, I mean, obviously there might be more ideal locations, like, for your to help achieve your goals more efficiently.
Yeah, in cities, it can be pretty expensive, and so one of the things we look for is partnerships with our government. So working in the right of way is often one thing, we can work with our cities. It definitely brings down the cost and also makes it more of a partnership in that way. We're not acquiring land in our urban space in our cities right now, but it's certainly something in places like along the Passaic River or along other water bodies. How do we think about ways that we've developed along these water bodies? A lot of these areas could be parks or areas that provide public access to waterways and could also reduce impacts from flooding. And that is something we're currently investigating in Patterson, working with multiple partners, multiple levels of government, and seeing what a potential greenway could look like along a pretty populated part of the city and work with our partners to come together with a vision for something that provides more direct access, that creates vegetated burn, but also creates an opportunity for recreation and does so in a way that gives us a little more bang for our buck. I don't to others, I wouldn't say acquiring land is sort of in these spaces is one of the ways that we think we can do this work more effectively, but that are positive for all parties.
Okay. We have about a minute left, maybe 30 seconds left. You want to tell us about a project that might be coming later this year in 2026 that you're excited for?
Yeah, I mean, this greenway, I'll just talk a little more about it.
Yeah,
Maybe
sure. No.
it's a collaboration with a number of our partners in Patterson along the Passaic River. And what's really exciting about it is that it is looking to create an opportunity for a park in a space that floods frequently. So it's already an area that is proximate to a community in Patterson. And it's an area that we want to help continue to create a walkable trail along. Again, access for people, space for nature, space for the river, and do so in a way that, you know, leverages our partnerships with Habitat for Humanity, the city of Patterson, the county, and some other partners in the area to develop a concept that we think we could scale over time.
Johnny, just to tie this back to Rutgers, that sounds a lot like Johnson Park across from the Rutgers football stadium. Doesn't that flood and the water comes in from the river?
That's why those parks were put there. We think about the origin and reasons. Now
Yeah.
you're creating a community asset. You're also reducing, flooding, and and you have these beautiful areas along the Raritan and across other waterways that people can access, recreate, and also protects your home.
Awesome. Great. Well,
Nice.
Johnny, where can we find out more about your work?
You can also see more all of our body of work across the state on there and learn about what the Nature Conservancy is doing globally across the country and see what might be of interest to you.
Okay, great. Well, Johnny, we're not going to let you go just yet. We got our one thing we can't stop talking about, tidal flooding or otherwise. Dan, I'll start with you.
Well, with Memorial Day weekend coming up, and we're just tying it back to how we started this podcast, the big beach weekend, the kickoff to summer. I've been watching in the month of May. I don't know if you guys have, you probably have, this huge algae bloom off the Jersey coast. And I'm curious to see if we're going to have another instance of like bluer or a more tropical water. Which would be a nice kind of icing on the cake, even erase that memory of winter even more. You have nice, warm, summery weather and nice tropical water. So, not saying that's going to happen, but I've been watching it, and maybe we'll have a repeat of what 2015, the last time that happened.
I was going to say, isn't that like your most read Press of Atlantic City article when you were there?
It was either that or the Mary Lee Shark Twitter, one of those two, but it was
Okay,
close.
good point. Good point. Papa, go ahead.
So, with this weather lately, and even when it was had a little chillier nights, we recently got a solo stove. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's like the outside bonfire thing that you could have on your deck.
Okay.
And I've really been enjoying s'mores like a lot lately. So
Okay. All right. That's cool. S'mores are
that's,
always good. Appreciate a good s'more every once in a while.
yeah, I haven't had one
Um,
in like years. And now that we have this, I'm like eating them every weekend.
Thank
yeah, they definitely can for sure. All right, I'm gonna go to something that kind of broke a couple of weeks ago. We're gonna go to sports. The NCAA men's basketball tournament now expanded to like 78 teams. It used to be 64, then it was 68. Kind of stinks, man. I mean, because a lot of these small Cinderella type schools are gonna end up duking it out in this preliminary round or first round. So you're not gonna get as many of those Cinderellas in the field of 64.
If Joe, maybe if we didn't have another Rutgers person on here, I would say, well, maybe Rutgers can get into the tournament now. But
Yeah,
but I
I'll
went
let
to
Johnny
Cornell,
answer
and
that one.
we're never in anyway, too. So I could throw my school in there too.
I don't know
Johnny,
how
you
to
got thoughts?
respond to that.
I mean, look, you know what? A shout out to the Rutgers Rant podcast from NJ.com. They said at this point, Rutgers pretty much like their expectation now has to be you make the tournament because now that field's expanded. So it was actually from Steve Peichel, a head coach perspective, it might have been better that it was at 68 because it's like, oh, well, it's 68. Now it's like 78 or 84. I can't remember.
Well, either way, I'm 2 miles from the stadium, so I'm happy to stop by anytime and see the team, root on the team there, and
Yeah.
you know, here's to hoping. So,
Yes.
and I hope so. I'm gonna go with something I've recently got into putting bird feeders out, and so what
Man, we're really getting old now, Johnny. We're a long way away.
I know, right? That's
Yeah, they hit you hard.
so I I've positioned my office and my desk right by my window. Again, migration and seeing the stuff that's coming by and making its way, north towards the north. It's just been incredible for me to just everybody I talk to. I'm like, oh man, I got to tell you what I saw at my feeders. So it's been a it's just been something I can't stop talking about.
Okay. All right. Good. All right. Well, we hope everyone has a restful Memorial Day weekend. Of course, we always want to remember the meaning of Memorial Day weekend and those who gave their lives for us, for the United States. But a great, exciting weekend at the Jersey Shore. If you're not listening at the Jersey Shore, we hope you have a good Memorial Day weekend too. And we'll talk with you next week, everybody. Thanks for listening to Tidal Flooding Talk.